Well, Lauren Phillips, welcome. You've just been on stage at the forum talking about how we can finance and accelerate the transition on the ground. You're a political economist. You've worked at the London School of Economics. You've worked in New York, and you're currently Director of Partnerships and UN Collaboration for the Food and Agriculture Association, the FAO of the UN. Now, I know you've published widely on finance and development, and you've been talking on the panel now. Urgency is always a theme at the forum. What was your central theme to drive progress? Because you did lay out some of the obstacles for us, the problems.
Yeah. I think that the thing that's driving us forward is the acknowledgement that we can't solve any of the problems that are confronting agriculture or agri-food systems by just looking at one thing. And so the urgency is really about thinking about how we can channel money to fix the system, whether we're trying to fix it from sort of the nutritional outcome standpoint, the productivity standpoint, environmental impact and climate, or whether we're thinking about jobs and livelihood and poverty, which are all very intertwined. And so the urgency is really coming from seeing that if we don't try to address these topics jointly, we won't make very much progress.
Often the debate can be quite siloed, quite polarized. So what did you hear that gave you some encouragement on the panel today?
I think just the fact that we were really having a conversation about the climate was really quite encouraging, because often we're speaking about agriculture without putting these two things together. I think that we could also have more conversation about the social elements and the nutrition outcomes. I think those are really important elements that FAO is increasingly trying to integrate in our conversations.
Kurt van der Berger was on the panel and gave the keynote from DG Klima. He said the only thing about climate change is it's not, it keeps changing. It's still going somewhere. So, that's always a thread when we talk the dialogue here about agriculture and the environment meeting. That's always going to be a problem to solve.
Yeah, there was a speaker earlier today who also mentioned that this is a crisis that doesn't have a fixed endpoint, right? This is a 100-year crisis, a 200-year crisis. It will last long after our lifetimes. And so sometimes that does make it hard to keep the focus on climate when we're thinking about very acute situations of conflict, or the link and the nexus between conflict and hunger, which is increasingly important. But I think we have to see that all of these things are sort of driving in the same direction. The climate is making systems less resilient. Conflict is increasing because of resources and because of the climate, and then hunger is a result of all of those factors.
Often with rising temperatures, we get rising tensions. So, a lot of those themes we talk about. We also talk about climate financing and the money, a really important aspect to this acceleration. You talked about budgets declining.
Yeah, or as a percentage, let's say, declining, which reflects, I think, a little bit about the preferences, but also where people see the innovation going. And so I think it's really important to say that we shouldn't just keep doing things the same way we've been doing them in the past. Channeling big development money towards climate financing is obviously important, but we also need to find ways to de-risk private financing for climate financing in agriculture and agri-food systems, including down to the very poorest and most vulnerable smallholder farmers and those on the ground. And
of course, that smallholders, that really does represent complexity, doesn't it, for this transformation?
Complexity and a high degree of risk, but also a very high payoff in terms of being able to offset those potential risks and get economic gains.
And Lauren, you left us on a high note in the sense that consensus needs to be that there needs to be more ambition, I think was one of the messages that you left the forum with today.
Yeah, I think that consensus, as I was saying at the forum, is a really important way for us to have durable solutions, even if it seems like it takes longer to come to consensus sometimes. What we see is that through discourse with different types of actors and consensus, we really make solutions which are more durable. So it's important if we're going to invest the time in those kinds of solutions to set an ambitious target and goal, and not just to sort of satisfy, which often happens in these kinds of situations.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us today and for sharing on the panel. Enjoy the forum.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the time.